For me growing up, netball was a really big part of figuring out who I was, and I struggled really early on with my sexuality and trying to figure out who I was. I felt like the only time I could be who I was on the netball court, because at that moment I was only getting judged for my ability to play netball rather than who I was off court. Sport became my safe spot. Even though no one knew, I guess I was battling my own little demons. And for that 60 minutes of playing a game or training, I could be who I was for that whole time. And it just felt like the weight of the world was off my shoulders. Sport was a way for me to balance my mental well-being. I think I'm very lucky when it comes to netball and AFLW, because I've always been in an environment where people really accept who you are. The 3 items I brought in today are 3 items that really gave me confidence to be who I am away from the court or the field. And I've always struggled with being Ash Brazill, the netballer, or Ash Brazill, the footballer, because I'm just Ash Brazill and it's me being a human, not the athlete, and the athlete's just a little bit of me. These are my AIS trackies that I got 11 years ago now. They're very worn and discoloured a little bit. I reckon I wore them nearly every single day when they weren't in the wash. I actually didn't really know what the AIS was back then. I've always just played netball because I love it. I didn't even know that netball could be a career. When I was at the AIS, that was when I told my family first that I was gay, and this is how I've been feeling. I didn't just decide overnight. I think it was 2 years where I was trying to convince myself that I wasn't gay and I wasn't that person, and I didn't know anyone else who was gay. I got to move to a completely different state away from my family and be who I was. There was not one person at the AIS who I knew, so I got to start really from scratch, take all the layers off and really build up who I was and become confident in who I was. I really think meeting people from different sport helped me understand that you don't have to be a certain way just because you're a netballer. You are who you are and you can do whatever you want. Meeting all these people from the AIS gave me that confidence and built me up to feel strong enough that I could actually tell my family and just be proud of who I am. This photo was on my wedding day. This means a lot to me because it has the 4 most important people in my life in one photo. I think about my netball journey and how my parents and my brother have played a really big part in it. And if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be able to be the athlete I am today. They just seem as happy as Brooke and I are there. One story that clicks in my mind is I was playing for the Hunter Jaegers, which was 4 hours away from my home. My mum would have to leave work early to pick me up from school and drive me 4 hours up the highway for a 2-hour training session and then 4 hours back twice a week. She was pretty incredible. It was where I got to share a lot of my time with my mum and be open and honest and have a laugh, sing songs, and just really share that mother-daughter time. I became really close with my mum in those car trips, and she became and still is and always has been my best friend. My brother's name is Jake and he is 18 months younger than me. He's been a best friend growing up. We weren't the kids that sat there and played on PlayStations. We were out on the farm kicking a footy, throwing a netball. I'm so grateful to have him as a brother because I feel like he had to sacrifice a lot of his life, leaving certain things early to get to my state trainings or state games, and he missed out on a lot of birthday parties, social hangouts because he'd be watching me play state netball. I feel bad because I probably haven't thanked him enough for everything he's done, but he's just been a big part of my journey and has really helped me and challenged me to get better. This suitcase to me reminds me of my netball journey, all the way back from when I used to play Saturday netball for Bargo, when I used to run from the football field covered in mud, running onto the netball court and playing a game of netball, to where I am today at Collingwood. I've always had a rule, and I think that rule started because I was only allowed 1 bag on my first flight, but I would only take whatever I could fit in the suitcase, and that's kind of just stuck with me. And the reason why it means so much to me is because it's been a thing about starting a new adventure, stepping outside of my comfort zone, going for a new ride and not knowing what is behind that door. Now I've been able to completely step out of my comfort zone playing for Collingwood and see if I was able to play 2 sports at the same time. Growing up as a young kid, I was always told by coaches that I have to choose either netball or footy, and I really struggled with that. To now be at an elite level, playing for one club at both netball and AFLW, it's so cool that I can now turn back to these coaches and say, you can actually do both. We're in a world now where young girls, young boys can do any sport that they want and not just have to choose one, but be able to do 2, 3, 4 different sports. Without sport, I wouldn't know where I'd be today. I probably wouldn't have the relationship I have with my family. I'd probably still be battling my demons and not knowing who I am. And I definitely wouldn't have the life experience I have today.